Welcome everyone. Thank you for coming to the last panel of the day. It's the performance and animation panel. We have 5 fantastic presentations in the afternoon, and I am Margarita Sola. I will be the moderator in this panel. And first speakers is Flavia Mazzanti and Manuel. Let me read the title. Is Immerea, exploring new dimensions in physical and the intersection of performance, art, real-time installation, and extended realities. Please welcome them.
Hi everyone. Thanks a lot for having us. It's a pleasure to be here today. My name is Flavia Mazzanti, and this is my business and life partner, Manuel Bonell. We are 2 of the 3 co-founders of Immerea. And today we are talking about something that we are working for the past years, which is exploring Phygital realms, an intersection of performance art, real-time installations, and extended realities. So our company is called Immerea. We are based in Vienna, and we are a media company focusing on the development of VR games and interactive installations, but our whole practice is also expanding to animation, experimental filmmaking, as well as everything in bridge between media art and extended and interactive realities.
We also hold different workshops and teaching at universities, and which is really unique for with our company Immerea is our style. So we work really a lot with abstract animations, abstract aesthetic. Most of the time, or actually in all of our projects, we try to bridge between physicality and virtual. So while we are working and the images are produced virtually, all the content derives from physical things. For example, movements traced in time, or we use point cloud scans, which we further import and transform into digital.
So today, actually, we want to talk to you about one specific case study or a project of us that is called Beyond My Skin, which is a project we've been working with different layers for the past 2 years. So we began working on this project in 2022, and there are multiple forms. We were also having all the time of feedback between also showing it and then reworking on new layers and bringing again to the audience, so like also really interactive process. So Beyond My Skin is an interdisciplinary project and is exploring the hybrid relationship between the human body and our representation in the digital, but it's not just this experience of one person, but it's a collective experience. So for us it was important to understand also from a post-human context, how can I relate or have a relationship with another person, or also interact with another person in this space in between physical and digital realm, and create this connection which works in both spaces. So the project itself is an interactive installation which can be tested by everybody in a festival exhibition context. It's also presented in the form of a live performance with a choreography with 2 performers and live sound, and is also extended to a mixed reality experience, again bridging these physical and virtual spaces. Before we move on, like talking about the project, we want to show a short trailer just to have an impression of how it looks like. So there are couple of moments I want to start talking about that are really important for this project. So on the one hand is this relationship between the two bodies in the physical and in the virtual space. So the interaction actually starts from the physical space, so the two person or two performers or two visitors are sitting in the same space, but they are not really looking to each other. They are mostly looking each one of the other direction to a monitor, so it's mostly almost a reflection of themselves, and for this we were also interested in this Lacanian mirroring stage of oneself, also start recognizing yourself and also the other person, and also interacting with the other person. This interaction starts in the digital, but they are both physical together. So how this, so the question actually at the beginning was really, every time we start interacting with somebody, we are always influenced by the physical appearance of this person. And this also tries, unfortunately, also to go into the virtual space when we start having avatars which look like how we look like. Or every time, okay, we can put the hairs and this and so on. So for us, it was really the question: how can I start having an interaction with somebody else where we just look like this particle and just abstract figures, and where movement actually becomes a form of identity and also self-expression. And for us it was also really interesting because 5 years ago when we started working with motion capture, we were working on another project, and a performer we were capturing movement, and then months later she was seeing herself in really abstract configurations, and she was looking at the monitor and say, okay, that's me, because she could recognize herself just from the movements, and she said, this way of moving, this is me. And for me it was really so strong, okay, it's not just about the physical appearance, or it's really about movement, and the movement itself also makes who we are and also how we interact with other person. So starting from this, it was really interesting for us having this as one point. And then it was also this research for this Berührungsmomente, and this is something which I really love to let it in German, because this Berührung topic, it's something which is like the touch, but it's also the moment of encounter. And how can we have this moment when we are also in a virtual space or in this space in between? So for this project, we were actually reversing the space. So when the two bodies are close to each other in the physical space, they are really far apart in the digital, and the other way around. So when they are physically distant, they become really close to each other in the digital, and they start merging and creating lines.
So it's important to say the non-verbal communication, what we try to express with the project. So the performers themselves, they knew already the movements, but a lot happened during the performance, and then we'll see later some experimentations and setups. It becomes really clear what we try to evoke, not also from our side visually, but also from the performance side.
Yeah, so just a little bit of context also in the part that we also like to position or to continue this course on this post-human topic, also looking how through technology we can also keep this discourse, so how technology has an influence on our identity and on our society, so on the way also we interact with ourselves and with other people. So mostly looking at some Rosy Braidotti, but we were also looking at Ferne Körper, which is also a recent book which was released in 2022, also regarding this, how can we come close together in a time of digital distancing, and also after or during pandemic times, especially the book was written at that time, but it's pretty interesting, how can we also reach this feeling of being close together in the digital.
Yeah, the development itself, it was pretty exciting because we were working with an interdisciplinary team, meaning we both working really strong, or Flavia mostly conceptually. I took over the management and the visual part of the project in the way we could create these particles and lines, which you see in the project. Further, we worked with two programmers and a technical artist, which allowed us to be able to create these real-time expressions, real-time animations. And then further, in exchange with the performers, we were able to manifest these ideas. Then here you see the setup again, what we talked already. We also had the pleasure to present it at the Ars Electronica Deep Space. Here we utilized 2 times 8K recorded performances, which we projected. This allowed the performers to not only perform the project itself, but also to explore more the spatial context with the visuals.
This is just a few impressions from the deep space where we also had live sound. But I will also move to the other, really briefly, to the other 2 layers of the project. On the one hand, it's not just a performance, it's also an interactive installations, and for me this is, or for us it was really important in this idea of also having these encounters between people who don't know each other, so coming just from an exhibition and then just seeing, okay, I'm also, because of playing with this concept of the distance, so being physically close to another silhouette, another person, while being on the other side of the room, and then also in this way starting a physical contact, or like start talking to each other in this way. And the last layer of the project is a mixed reality experience. We were working actually this year, and when we add layers, or also technology always has to make sense to us while we are using that technology. And in this sense, on the one hand, was this relation of having these bodies which come actually from the physical space were in real time brought to the digital, and we are bringing them back to the physical space. But at the same time, it was also interesting not just the relation between physical and virtual, but also between private and public spaces. So starting doing this series of interventions in Vienna, just bringing my chair, so part of the private space and the glasses, and just sitting there and bringing these bodies actually back to different public spaces. And here again also this idea of this Berührung, this touch, where I love when like people pass by and have actually no idea what's going on, but they are physically going through these digital bodies. So it's again this touch, this encounter, which may also make question this relation between physical, digital, private, and public spaces. Yes.
Here, really quick, the credits. Of course, we needed a bigger team for this project. And it was really exciting, as I said, to work interdisciplinary. This is something we always try to approach in all our projects, and we will also continue in the future.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now we have time for a couple of questions of the audience. Great.
Thank you for this presentation. I was just thinking about the transgressive nature of sitting on a chair in the sidewalk. Did you get any resistance or pushback for your doing this kind of thing?
Actually not. It was also most of the time, sometimes going alone, and it was pretty funny just like seeing people looking at me, what I'm doing. I think something that people don't know is that with the mixed reality you can see the physical space. So I have most of the recordings where people pass by and they have to say something, or because they think I'm not seeing anything, and actually I was seeing them, everything that they were saying. And I imagined, I already like told people that I know, like if you see some TikTok videos, it's probably because like all the young people passing by and making videos of me doing this.
Maybe quite connected to your question, also about the mixed reality thing, and unfortunately I came quite late, so I'm sorry, maybe I didn't get all the context. Mixed reality or augmented reality or whatever in public space, plus VR device, I call it now, isn't it a bit lonely? And I mean, it looks beautiful and so, but what's your take on public participation in a context like that?
Actually, I am a big fan, or I can think I can speak for both. We are a big fan of bringing also this technology outside, because like it's also something which we always struggle with. Everything which is digital technologies, it's so hard to exhibit outside, and to have a participation just from the audience and like people getting interested, generally interested. And I think we had one situation where also like just people in the park where they didn't know no idea what's going on. They came and started asking questions about what is this. They didn't even know this is a VR glass. So it was nice also to have this interest from people, and of course we didn't start now a big movement in this sense, but I think there is a lot of potential.
Yeah, I think it was also this experimentation between this privateness, really inside something which only you experience, what only you feel, but at the same time being publicly exposed with this. So everyone sees that you react on something, maybe you have some gestures you need to do to click some things in the application, but you expose yourself in doing something completely private, but it's in a public sphere, basically.
I know we're running out of time, so hopefully you can answer this quickly, because I know the time. You said you brought it into like an interactive installation. So how does interactivity tie in with your concept?
Yeah, the time was too short to explain it properly. Basically, we had 4 sensors which track the movements of the performers. So 2 sensors per performer. And at the same time, they also create a 3D silhouette of the performers. So all this point aesthetic, what you saw, is basically a 3D relief of the body of the performer. So this is everything happening in real time, meaning the sensors see it, they track it, they translate it into the computer, and then you see it on the screen. So basically, while a performers in the case of visitors, once you pass by, you immediately feel something happen. And the beautiful thing is that it's not only something visual, you also feel your movements, because when you move, it's also traced in time and space, meaning it has a delay. So while you move, you feel some kind of tracing of yourself, which is pretty beautiful because you create a spatial concept.
I think we need to close, but thank you for the presentation. Okay. Now we'll have a presentation by Jun Kim, Animating Tangible Narrative, Creating Application of Animation and Interactive Technologies for Playful Interactions in the Exhibition of Ceramic Stories. Please come.
So first, I acknowledge for the traditional owners of the Australia where I worked, and I acknowledge the Gadigal people, the traditional owner of the land where I worked on this project. I pay my respect to elders past and present, to extend this respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. And as a creative practitioner, I celebrate stories, culture, and tradition of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander elders of all communities who also work and live on this island. Okay, so my name is Jun Kim, and I'm a lecturer at the University of New South Wales, Sydney, Australia. And this is my very first time attending Arts Electronica and Expanded Animations. It's been really an eye-opening experience here in Linz. And thank you for organizing this amazing event, Expanded Animation Conference and Arts Electronica. And today I wanted to briefly introduce the role of animations and interactive work for the exhibition called Ceramic Stories and Digital Connections, collaborating with Australian Design Centre, as well as Australian Design Centres and 2 ceramic artists, as well as the guest curator, Elaine Kim. So I might just put that back on here. It's okay, I will just do that. Okay. So animation and interactive applications are often presented either as a standalone artwork or as a kind of, a tool to delivering informations in gallery and museum environments. However, for these exhibitions, we are meaning that, Australian Art Centre, ceramic artist, and myself and, the guest curator took a bit like a different approach. here. And first, the design center raised a question. Okay. First, the design center raised a questions about the limitations of audience interactions with object and asking how we can make them more tangible and touchable. But when you go to the galleries, you cannot touch anything. There is 3D object, but you want to touch and feel, right? But you're not allowed to do that. But then what we can do. So I focused on the development of digital connections and highlighting its crucial role as a new way or like a different way to add layers of stories, not just the informations, but stories and enhance audience experience and engagement to just like reimagine and connect these narratives with ceramic stories. We don't really say that like in this work, I don't really say that what this ceramic artist wanted to do or what this wanted to do. There's no information. It's kind of, more like a fun and playful way of my interpretation, more likely. So additionally added. So here, so you can see that like that's kind of like a basic settings, impressed me. So what it happens is that ceramic artist Sebastian Conti created like a button, like a miniature of his work. So at least, people can touch part of his work. So that's kind of, oh, okay, so that's what Sebastian made. And like based on touching, using that as a button, and like we actually shows what's happening, like what I interpret as the characteristics of his object. If I show here. So if I just briefly explained about his work. So Sebastian Conti's work is like it looked like an idol, more likely. So it looks like a characters sometimes looks angry or sometimes look a bit more playful like that. So the initial conceptualizations that I took is to view Conti, like a Sebastian Conti's artifact more as a idols than a architectural object or ceramic objects. So the interplay of colors and geometric shapes and volumes in each piece inspired me to imagine, materialize a playful trait. So here, I think I put videos here. So here I just mainly used After Effects to create the kaleidoscopic animations and also put that into the Max MSP to create just like a randomized effect. So when audience can touch, they can stop, but randomly every time differently. So they can like interact or more likely disturb the characteristics. So make like the characters a bit angry or more likely that. So that's what I did. And here I put it. So then to make the button working, that's kind of, the work in progress, what I did. So here, this is actually quite blocky, but, I just kept trying different way. Then people can try. And now, like you can see here, how people, that's Sebastian over there. Don't think that he's naked. He wear, peach color shirts. So not naked, okay? And his audience actually playing with that. So, like a yes. And that's also like another way to me trying to figure out how to work. So we made actually like I put like 3 different screens here. So probably it doesn't show all 3. So 3 different screens and connecting with all different buttons so people can actually like interact differently. Okay. We were thinking of putting some sound, but because of like it's quite like open space, so we didn't actually put the sound. Okay. And another work that I did was, here we go. So this is Cassie Chan's work. So Cassie Chan actually has completely like a different approach that sort of like a Sebastian's has, like a blending, like a he has like a Chinese background but grew up in Australia. So blending with like his childhood nostalgia, Cassie Chan's ceramic practice draws a bit like a historical allusions from diverse mix of folklore and mythologies and pop culture, mainly, like Japanese and Asian pop cultures. So Chan's, he's like a really meticulously like hand-drawn piece conveys unique blend of traditional and contemporary perspectives and ideas. And I really like, his the pattern, his just, characters that he used. So two inspirations that I got from like a Cassie's work is the concept of fusions, like a very traditional way, but at the same time very contemporary pop culture. So fusion is really like a blended, like a potentially clashing cultures in a way, but that really coexist well. So that's the inspirations that I had. And second one that I inspired was, the intricate illusions and intricate illustrations and meticulously crafted patterns on his ceramic art pieces. So based on that, I actually got completely different approach. So here, so as you can see, so I actually created these scroll papers. So, completely different approach, but I just wanted to make somehow look Chinese, but I am very fond into the British tea culture. So I just tried to arrange his characters, his patterns into more like a British way. So, I'm kind of, following his how to fusions and how to do that. And then, on the top of that, we just put the AR. So that's kind of, how I created with AR. It's a very simple. I chose to use a very simple program called iJet. It's a Sydney-based creator made it, and that's just some of the examples. So I created something like 2 to 3 frames, butterflies, and put them on as a one, and then I can also put them on as a collections. So then when audience click just one QR code, then they can just, use everything as it is. So simple, but very easily usable. So if I don't want to show everything here, but probably around here. So, no. So I actually mimicked. I didn't have a time to get the one. So it doesn't really work this all together. So whenever they just put that on, they just work one by one. Okay, so that's what I've been working with Design Center and gallery people. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we open for questions, 2 or 3 questions, we have time.
Hi, thank you so much for the presentation. I just wanted to ask, by making these artworks more interactive, what type of different behaviors did you notice in visitors interacting with the artist? Was there anything that was stood out to you?
The fun thing that I just found out, because I was there all the time, most of the time, and it actually makes them smile more. And rather than reading what's written next to it, and they just go and press and just try to understand from their personal way. We don't really always. It's good to understand what artist's intention, but sometimes you want to feel instead of just intellectually interacting. So I just found they're more intuitively and playfully interacting, which was great.
Thank you so much.
There.
Hi there. Just wanted to say thanks so much for this presentation. It's really beautiful to see people using natural elements like butterflies, which have such strong meanings not only through Asian cultures but also European cultures. You know, butterfly and moth is so important in Netherlandish painting and through traditions of memento mori. So it was really exciting for me to see it in an augmented reality format. Did you get any responses from visitors about the significance of butterflies for them?
Yeah, actually, like, you know, we don't really, often, like, we don't pay attention what's on a, you know, object, what T-sets, right? So when they actually read about, like, oh, that's the, you know, the patterns that you can find, you can, you know, find from Chinese ceramics, not, you know, others, you know, European ceramics, and they kind of, oh, okay, so that's a Chinese way, like, you know, actually they try to be more attentive on like characters and patterns on Chinese ceramics and distinguishing from the, you know, European or British ceramics. So it was quite interesting to hear like a kind of like a, you know, kind of over the shoulders, like the old ladies came and, oh, that's it. So it's very fun. So, yeah.
1 second.
I love what you're doing, and I also wonder, it seems like you had your own artistic vision to the work that you were doing. Was there a sense in which you were not in a, I don't think you're trying to do this in a negative way, but you're competing with the artifacts that you're annotating? Like, is there, are people still paying attention to the thing that's the trigger?
Yes, that's actually, you know, my position was a little odd, right? It's not, my position wasn't artist, so it's supposed to be supporting, but it has kind of, you know, very strong my voice to interpret. So we actually had to discuss quite a bit. You know, I don't really want to step over, you know, their step onto their toe, like a completely differently, like a, you know, understanding or interpreting. So yeah, we had like a really good communication from the beginnings, and those artists and also design center people and curators were very actively. So the communication was really, really important. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to do this.
Yeah, and it seems like it's artists that you actually met and spoke with, and you're collaborating with them in some way.
So we spoke, we actually spoke quite a lot, and we agreed and also shared like all the work in progress, whether like that's they agree or not, or things like that. And yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. And our next presentation is Margarita Köhl and David Altweger. Sorry?
Altweger.
Altweger. Sorry, my pronunciation.
Okay. Hello, my name is Margarita Köhl. I'm head of the Department of Design at the University of Applied Sciences in Vorarlberg. I've got a background in science and technology studies and critical design, which informs my practice as a critical and systemic designer as well as a transdisciplinary artist. This is David Altweger, my collaborator and a lecturer at our department.
Hi, I'm David Altweger. I'm an artist, director, and also like an educator. Again, I'm working at the design department.
Yeah, our talk is called Sphagnum dances. Sphagnum is the Latin term for mosses, and the project we want to present to you is an art-based research project which we conducted in Vorarlberg, where we addressed the biomes around the university, and we tried to collect a lot of material, and also in this talk we will explain the extent to which this practice is not intended to be a testimony of a romanticized admiration of nature, but rather a critical examination of scientific procedures and scientific knowledge production and its power implications. So we will try to show you this ongoing endeavor, where we also try to integrate post-humanist thought into curriculum design at our department. And we will focus on two projects where we followed an approach by Anke Hamann, an artistic research project, which tries to expose the relativity of the researcher's gaze by means of producing aesthetic objects. So we tried to really collect and inspect and sort and categorize and collect a lot of data and images of mosses, creating a taxonomy, and we tried to juxtapose it with seemingly effective practices of performance and artistic expression. Thereby we want to transgress the boundaries between the laboratory and everyday life, as well as the observer and the observed, and subject and object, and nature and culture. So we also tried to epitomize the concept of nature culture, which was coined by Donna Haraway, which also tries to combine those terms to show that nature as well as culture are socially constructed and are always combined with specific complexes of practices. So we tried to use mimesis as artistic strategy, and this is the first project I want to show you, where we created or we mimicked a laboratory space where people participants could interact with different specimens, and in this project we tried to subvert the relationship between observing and being observed by zooming in and zooming out with microscopic images, we used microscopy mainly to epitomize this process. And we created epistemic things, so the experiment was the process, and David will continue to show you the next project.
Around the university there's amazing places that have microclimates that have like very, very interesting biodiversity. So we were like starting to really map out the surroundings further and further and further. And this process basically, involved like collecting specimen, but also we did a lot of photography and just, taking images and really documenting everything. But in this case, we're very, very aware that these are technical images. In the case, and we understand them like Willem Flusser describes them, that technical images are not a representation of reality. That's it's basically an interaction between me and the apparatus and the moss and the specimen. But what's really interesting about this is about agency, and we are interested in process philosophy. Where we think about cognition arises through interaction between different actors with varying degrees of agency. And so one of the techniques that we use a lot is Gaussian splatting. It's basically taking a point cloud, but it's like an extended version of that. You can see here. This is, by the way, it's a free tool. Lumaya is amazing. And what it does, it creates a point cloud, but it's like, instead of just points, it's ellipses. It's very tricky, and it uses AI, obviously. So in this case, the AI becomes almost a collaborator. And again, these are not scans, so this is an approximation that the AI makes, based on all of these images. So to me, it's a little bit like memories. So it's not accurate, but it's there. So it's kind of like a co-creation with the biome and with the AI. So it's really, really interesting process. And you can use it, like you can drop it right into Touch Designer to create like, interactive stuff, or like you can also do it in Unreal. So I think this is really interesting and brings us to, what cognition is and what does the human brain do. And there we go.
So we try to apply the concept of vegetal storytelling. So what do plants tell us? So we really try to find out about the interactions among plants and how they communicate. So this concept really tries to transgress the boundaries which are constructed in Western epistemology. And also it tries to create a different image of plants as active and having agency as plants communicate via different root bacteria. And we really tried to also create an installation where people could experience this interaction with plants. So in a way, plants have a specific type of intelligence differing from human intelligence, and this agency involves responsiveness, adaptability, as well as the interaction with the environment. So this brings us to the next project.
So when we describe in process philosophy terms, we describe human cognition. Human cognition is embodied, embedded, enacted, and extended. And you could also describe the interaction between plants and humans, and like our ecosystem. We could give these attributes to all of these actors. So we created an installation with stable diffusion, and it's basically like a live transmission of our movements into like the AI. It creates this. And this also creates sort of like distributed choreography where all of these different actors with different agencies start interacting with each other. And by the way, I'd like to shout out to Dot Simulator, Lyle Hintz. He creates these amazing like transmissions between Touch Designer and Stable Diffusion. And also, I'd like to say a lot of stuff has happened since I recorded this a few months ago. There's new control nets, they're amazing. And I just have to show you, like I recorded a couple of things today. And this is like live, just like feeding it into it without a LoRa model even. So this is literally just a camera input with prompts and then feeding it into the model. You just have to have really precise language, and
But it's like the gestures are transformed into the images, which are based on all the material we collected within the last year, actually.
Yeah, and I mean, we have to say, well, we're going to speed this up a little bit, but like this is also like a process where we approach AI as one of those, like participants in this system, and we think, AI is not just a technology; it's a lot of stories and it's narratives, and like the way we use it is really important in what we inscribe into that new technology. So we need to be part of this, and we need to be active in it. So this brings us
to our conclusion.
So I'd like to why is this so important to us? This terminology, why do we have to separate between, why don't we want to talk about nature or human? And I think it's about, the xenofeminists really put their finger on it when they say so many people have been suffering, so many entities have been suffering because they've been deemed unnatural. And I feel like in order to change anything, we have to stop talking about the environment or nature or, because it's not separate from us. And also we should approach technology like that, I feel. We feel.
thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Now we have time for a couple of questions.
Hello, thank you. It's a quick one. I just saw just now an incredible installation from, I think it's your school, also with sounds, the moss. Is that this, are you collaborating?
Yeah, we're in the same
You're the same team. Oh, fantastic.
Is also
Fantastic.
So we had a focus
What is
on
the
mosses, yeah.
Yeah, it was just okay. There is more moss. Could you maybe, because I can't remember what it was called. It was the
Sphagnum.
Sphagnum, yes.
Yeah. And Stefan's project is about Foramos, which is a specific area in Vorarlberg.
Maybe you can say where it is in
Vorarlberg, yeah. Western part of Austria.
Yeah, thank you. I would be interested in some of the technical details of this installation. What is the role of Stable Diffusion in here? I guess it's not creating these images 25 per second, or?
Yes, it does. So basically, there is new models that you can plonk into Touch Designer, really. And I mean, the fastest way to do it is to train your own LoRa models with Koya. And so all of these pictures that you saw, like we isolated them. Then we have control sets, like of other plants and things, like that we feed into that. And the more precise that model is, like that is like an extension to the base model. And the more precise that is, the faster it gets, because it doesn't have to look up. It's like memories. When you think of something like very often, or like you said it like a million times, then it's not really hard. Like you don't have to like wreck your brain. So basically, it's like a top level thing that's always there. So I have like trigger words, and if I invoke those, then that thing switches on.
Cool, thanks.
I was interested in how you ended your talk, that we are nature, and we can't really separate technology and nature and ourselves. We are all one. And seeing the dance sort of person become plant, and the plant become person, I was wondering, was that an interactive installation? Somebody was like dancing around and turning into the plants? Yes. Okay, so I want to know what kind of feedback you received after people experienced turning into plants, or plants turning into them, this merger.
Actually, at the moment we're still in the process of evaluation, but we showed the installation in the frame of the Pulba Festival, which is a music festival mainly, and now also media arts festival in Vorarlberg. It always depends on the prompts you enter. So most people. So it started to become a really fluid process. We started with the plants, but then people entered different things. They wanted to become other people. That was a very interesting observation for me, because they didn't want to stick to this, to our preset. So they I don't know, they but I think the interesting thing is if you really have this embodied experience where you kind of can connect to these different shapes and really experience this merging. That's what the first observation was. But I don't know if people really start reflecting on those epistemological things, but that's our philosophical background, basically.
I'd just like to add.
I think we need to be closing soon.
Okay. So one of the things, like when you engage with this longer, I've done it with a couple of people, and what always comes up is a little bit like puppetry. You start like seeing what it does, like to certain movements, and the other thing is really sometimes like dreaming. It's like, because it always surprises.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Steve Jones and Alexandra Abad. The paper is presenting is Lexicon the Plantas, Lexicon of Plants, Cynicality and Participatory Community Experience in the Immersive Animation Installation. You're welcome.
Hello, thank you for having us. I'm Alejandra Abad and this is Steve Jones. I'm a visual artist and he's a musician and we're both professors. And this was a project we collaborated on. So Lexicon like Plantas is a large-scale audiovisual and site-specific art installation that immerses the observer in the realm of poetry through layering memories from the past with contemplations of the present and the possible futures. It features transformations of drawings into animations, and these are projected onto paper sculptures, as seen in the photo. It features conceptual and collaborative activations, and collaborative breakdown of the barriers between the artist and the audience by sharing community-sourced stories relating to the memories of plants. This work invites the audience to engage with the complexities of memory and migration and belonging. It explores the magical realism through the lens of belonging and mutual compassion as part of collective wellness. Here you can see an original poem typewritten by my grandfather, Jose Colmenares, in Caracas, 1949. I'm using this as a source of this installation, and as an educator and advocate for nature, he had this sense of veneration for the nature, and the poem creates a sense of remembrance of the past, exploring the significance of reclaiming memory in the present. And while the memories of immigrants often are to assimilate to the promise of modernity, this is also carrying the possibility of erasure, trauma, and the exploitation of both the land and the body of immigrant stories as the communities need to make sense of a new land. So the poem Illusions, or Ilusiones, responds to life in Caracas, a bustling city given the economic growth of Venezuela in the 1940s. By reminding the audience that any perceived or real gains can be illusionary or temporary, we are being aware of the dual dramas related to the human body and the natural bodies that we can diagnose and work towards a collective treatment of social ills. The project began with my hand and my memory. So you can see 9 memories here of a garden in Venezuela. And this was my grandfather's garden. These were then made into animations with elements of laser cut objects. The community then could participate with me inside the installation space via QR code, and it had a prompt that simply asked, what's your memory related to plants? And the participants used mobile phones to share their memories, and here are some examples of these memories. And it kind of also had these scenes that had the translation of the poem that people could take home.
We developed the musical score together here, using Alejandra's grandfather's cuatro, a 4-stringed instrument from Venezuela, which elevates the personal sentiment, nostalgia, and sense of reverence in the work, along with the inclusions of specific sounds from nature that would be familiar and instantly recognizable to Venezuelans to invoke Proustian memories of association. Genre-wise, the score participates in folk traditions that elevate the memories and experiences of common people. Venezuelans regard the cuatro as the country's national instrument. The sound immediately evokes a sense of reverence in the listener for both human workers and their relationship to nature, given the cuatro's central place in the folk music of the country. Other sound elements include textural synthesizers and field recordings of singing frogs and various birds to create a lush and vibrant atmosphere brimming with life. This fusion of visual and audio elements immerses the audience in the complexities of memory, migration, belonging, and the dynamic interplay between art and nature. Each of these elements invite the audience to reconnect with the environment. The sound mirrors the visual progression and tempo of the animation, bringing the audience in solidarity with the folk underpinnings of the musical score.
The installation features 3 different projections on each wall in the gallery space. On the main wall, there's an interpretation of the poem. Oh, sorry, I'm a little nervous. The other visual installation contains various interpretations of memory through laser-cut vellum paper that as seen here. The animated cycles of music and composition opens the space with the poem, which appears floating in the center of the space. And the poem was digitally scanned and then vectorized and then laser cut. The gaps allows people to interact with the poem, or at least a digitalized version of the poem. And through the openings, people started playing with this and started interacting with the other interpretation of the poem that was animated in the main wall. The physical poem floats and has looping text of the poem, creating a mask of solid paper with the open cuts. This is the gallery space. It's 20 feet tall walls, and it features different projections, like I mentioned, and it combines the text and the animations. This is a physical manifestation of the typewritten poem through the text. And yeah, it took a team to put it together.
The left wall features hand-cut shapes in a layered paper sculpture that cascades in front of a second animated projection. This animation is called Flora and contains paper-cut color pencil drawings made into a stop-motion animation. This section emphasizes the ephemeral nature of creation and uses 9 drawings that refer to the memories of plants from Alejandra's grandfather's garden. This video loops after 2 minutes and 7 seconds and deconstructs the cycles of hand-drawn memories, recomposing constituent elements into new forms in a manner that mirrors the cyclical process of nature. That is, the natural world transforms into drawings, and then the drawings transform into animation. The drawings are cut, rearranged, edited, and then projected onto 20-foot-tall hand-cut hanging paper sculptures. Each transformation and reiteration combine to make new imagined shapes, and these forms in turn prompt ideations of a new and hopeful symbology. The third wall features a video titled Memorias, which features projections of community source memories that are related to plants.
This installation was on view from February 8th to May 18th. And on the closing day, we selected memories from the audience that shared, and we reinterpret these by making readings and also creating a musical score to allow people to reflect the memories, and then invited the audience to join us to continue sharing stories. And these are some of the pictures.
For the one-off musical performance, we layered in live instruments and vocals over the installation's soundtrack that continued to play in the background. This created a unique and welcoming environment for the participation. At the end of the performance, the audience was invited to share additional memories related to plants. This activation provided a space for reflection and connection where people could listen and share via familial remembrance, and then continue to connect with one another after the performance.
This project opened the possibility of ideation for new environmental futures by really remembering those who came before through storytelling. A lot of people of diasporas in Florida, so the stories range from grief to the appreciation of relationships with those who came before us, and the wisdom to maintain that connection with nature. And to conclude, we will show you a little brief video of what that was.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now we are, again, round of questions. Couple of 3 questions, we have time.
Very beautiful work. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the visual design elements in the animation. So mirror symmetry and radial symmetry often play a role in a number of different cultures, you know, spiritually or, you know, psychologically. It has some power there. So why did you make a decision to use that type of representation in your animation?
That's a great question. So yes, when I think of memory, I think of the fragmentation that happens. Even if I try to, excuse me, recreate a drawing, it's going to get lost. And I think how we process things or how we see things get reversed. And I'm very interested in that change that happens with the visual information, and also this idea of like the analog and then the digital, how it's just also an interpretation of that. And so, and besides all that exploration, also the cycles that come with symmetry are seen in nature, but also within ourselves. The rotation of the sun, the cycles of the season. So it's all playing into this like duality. Kind of like what you're saying, emphasizing the spirituality of it and that intersection. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the beautiful work. I was wondering a little bit about the interactive part. So as a participant, what exactly could I control? Was it like really the text, or could I also control the lights or like the projection? Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, so it's very simple. It's text-based, so people could add to the stories. So you would have to wait for a long time for your story to propagate. And actually it was very labor intensive because I actually had to continuously update it. So this is where if I were to do it again, I would use a lot of technology for it. So yes, so people were able to bring their stories into the other projection, and then also at the closing night, they could continue to bring ideas into the project.
So yeah, they're literally participating in the content creation of the piece, not just modulating the creation, but creating the actual content, at least on that one wall.
And it was there for 4 months, so it continued to grow.
Okay, yeah, last question.
Hello. So very nice. I'm interested in knowing how was the combination with the sound. So the animation, the sound, and the generation of the content. Yeah, maybe you can tell us more.
Yeah, I basically acted like a film score composer taking direction from the director. She told me exactly what she wanted, what her vision was, and I tried my best to create that vision. But we've worked together for many years, so that's becoming sort of second nature by this point. But the idea of creating the folk culture, folk is very important to us on a sort of class level as well as an access level, and then the incorporation of nature, and as was mentioned in the previous discussion, breaking down the binary human, non-human. The sound imitating nature, being in nature, it is nature, we are nature. So that was sort of the process.
And we intentionally created a meditative loop to kind of, when you enter the space, it did activate this sense of wanting to share. Also by revealing my most precious poem to the public. So it's almost like a door or portal into, oh, this is very vulnerable, very emotional, where I think a lot of work sometimes is not about emotions. This is all about emotions. So yeah, it's a visual poem. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Applause for this great project. Okay, we will go to the last presentation of the afternoon. Rewa Wright is presenting now towards the eco-digital real-time animation with plants, data, and sound.
Hello everybody, my name is Rewa Wright. I'm an artist based in Meanjin, Brisbane. I'm originally from Aotearoa, New Zealand. I'm part New Zealand Māori, part Croatian, part Welsh. So I have a lot of different cultures within me, and these tend to find their way into my work with my group Uncalculated Studio. We're a bit of a family group, so my partner Simon does the audio recording, and my daughter Mariana does some of the design. But I'm actually the one who is not shy from the family, so that's why I'm speaking with you today. I'm also very aware that as the last presenter of the whole symposium, I'm the only person really standing behind all of you and a beer and a glass of wine, right? So I've set a timer and I won't be going on for too long. So hopefully I'm going to press this in the right direction. Oh. Oh, thank you. Good. So we work in a variety of mediums. Since probably about 2014, we've been looking at ways to fold in the environment with technology. A lot of the method for this has come out of my background as New Zealand Māori, so we have an idea of plants actually having a deep connection with humans, and we have genealogies that also involve plants, geology, the wind, different natural elements as part of what we call whakapapa, which is our bloodline. And so we all have a river, a mountain, and a sea that we connect our bloodlines to. So part of the idea behind this sort of ongoing project, it's really something that's come with my cultural identity, the concept that we are embedded within nature, and not only that, that we are able to communicate with non-human forces in a meaningful way. So this is our most recent work. It was actually shown last week in Federation Square, Melbourne. So this is a large-scale animation called Cosmic Signals, where Simon took sonifications from the NASA database of quasars, pulsars, mice galaxies, different galactic phenomena, and we use that to drive our real-time animations. Part of the intention behind our work is to bring people closer to the environment around them in a way which isn't to do with simply visually replicating representations. So I'm just going to play a little bit here. Because the screen was so large and in a big public place, it actually was without sound, even though it had a very deep soundtrack with these cosmic sonifications, these signals. But the idea about it is to actually also think about pulses and rhythms, which are non-metrical, so arrhythmic, atonal processes, which are really from a different system of sonics than the system of sonics we have from the human side. So from the human side, we tend to have metrical compositions where there's rhythm. Everyone is familiar with meter in music, metronomes, keeping the beat. That's why we have, drum machines and drummers. But of course, when you're thinking about the natural environment and phenomena such as cosmic signals or plant signals, which I'll move on to next, this is actually very arrhythmic. And so it can be quite jarring for humans to actually listen to these sounds because they can be so atonal and so arrhythmic. So this has been an interesting part of the project, is to try to use these sonic phenomena to actually drive the animation, but in a way that is it's not always visible. So how we start is we tend to work in our studio. So we have plant companions, really, who live with us. I have a very love of vines. You can probably see all across the back wall. We have a very large vine system. We have capacitive touch sensors that connect up to the plants, and they actually sense their signals in real time. And then those real-time signals drive our animations. I started with this series. I was working a little bit with my cultural heritage. As Māori, we have a lot of woven nets for fishing, things like eels and different types of fish, depending on the netting. But of course, also through computational art, there's a really long history of mesh topologies. So this work was also about translating some of those ideas, such as a mesh topology from computational art and meshes from traditional weaving together. So this work has been shown in various mediums. Currently, it's technically driven by Touch Designer, but actually, when I started the series earlier, I was using Unity for all of the interactions. And it was actually a mixed reality piece originally with a head-mounted display from HTC Vive. So how do we compose, or how do we add the human composed music to this? Well, it's an organic process where we actually let the plants emit their signals in the studio, and then Simon converts the signals to MIDI. He's adding in different VSTs and plugins, and improvising alongside the plant music. So essentially what you have is a situation where the plants are triggering the human composer to modulate with them and to harmonize with them. And that can be quite difficult because, of course, the melodies that plants give out are very atonal. So they're not on any particular scale. Plants have not read Bach's Well-Tempered Clavier, so they're not aware that there's a very structured Western scale system they're supposed to follow. So often the sounds are actually quite jarring for the ear, and they can be very, very hard to follow. But ultimately with this piece, we ended up making it a large-scale installation for LCD screens. So this is a more recent iteration shown at the International Symposium of Electronic Art in Meanjin, Brisbane. It's also been premiered as a projection mapping at the Aotearoa Digital Arts Symposium in Whakatu, Nelson last year. And we've performed this as a live work at a sound kitchen at Prague Quadrennial, where we had a couple of plant companions who we were co-composing with live in a really wonderful downstairs cavern space in Prague. And as a rendered video file, it's been part of the Decolonial Art exhibition, which was a SIGGRAPH Los Angeles exhibition curated for digital arts community SIGGRAPH. So just a little taster there. We have a lot more on our website, but I don't want to go over time. And here's a little bit of what the work is like live. So you can hear in the background we have the human music, which is composed metrical to the beat, you know, something between reggaeton and techno and dancehall. Simon's writes a lot for Jamaican dancehall artists. He has quite a few albums which have been working with Caribbean artists, so he has that style himself. You can see in the front I have a plant which is connected to a capacitive touch sensor. So I'm modulating my body frequency in relation to the plant signal as well. So that's how it sort of combines. And this is in a Cave 2 cylinder, so another interactive version. And this is as a projection mapping at the Aotearoa Digital Arts Symposium. So how do we work with sound? Well, first we get some recordings, we get some signals, they can be real time, and then Simon works with them through a pitch over time kind of diagram in Logic X. Sometimes we record in the field, so this is an ongoing project at Joshua Tree where we're looking at Joshua trees from a sonic perspective of health. So we're kind of mapping a certain area and we're identifying the health of particular trees based on their signals. These are signals from a range of different Joshua trees. So as you can see, they have a really arrhythmic pattern. Each one of these tiny dots is actually a note. So that's a MIDI note. Or that's a plant signal transposed to MIDI. So you can see there's a very, very fast pace. It's more like a wave, kind of a diagram. And it's certainly something that would be very different from, say, a classical Western notated music piece. So, and this is a data visualization. We'll be showing this at the end of the year at VISAP IEEE in Florida. And I think that probably concludes my time. So thank you so much for the kind invitation.
Much. Yeah, I had the luck to be in Brisbane, and I saw the installation.
Oh, did you? You were in Brisbane?
Yes, yes, yes.
Ah, fantastic.
Yeah. And also, I'm also participating in the BISAP. Maybe I see you in Florida also. Okay. Thank you for the presentation, and we have here the first question.
Thank you. My question is not necessarily only directed to your presentation, but three of them that I saw now in the last hour. But also in yours, there was quite a strong usage of kaleidoscopic images, so to speak. You know, those using in digital way. This is usually using mirrored images, which, to my mind or from my feeling, quite often go away from nature. I mean, maybe it's just a personal interpretation, but maybe just as a question. Dealing in a project with nature, which some of in the last hour we saw was the case, and it's just this is my interpretation. What's your take on that?
Oh, okay. Well, it's interesting because there's this fairy forest folk called the Patu Paiarehe, and I can only really explain why I've used a kaleidoscope if I go back to this little ancestral figure. So they're like a demigoddess figure. Think of a forest fairy, okay, but it's a New Zealand Māori northern tribal thing. So they're called Patu Paiarehe, and they hang out in the forest, and they have a third sight. And this third sight is like a kaleidoscopic vision. So ever since I was a little girl, I've had this fascination for kaleidoscopes, and I know it might seem strange, right, but I think as an artist, you know, you have all your baggage that comes with you, and then you have your research side where you're like, okay, I have to do this, you know, I'm going to turn this into a research project that can be validated by my peers and that other people will benefit from. But you always have the little things that are close to your heart. So that's actually, since you asked, no one ever asked me this, but this is why the kaleidoscopic vision, it's third sight from this forest fairy folk from my cultural heritage.
Thank you.
So I'm interested in your working with plants, your co-creators. I know I'm also kind of a plant person. I live with plants. They're all around me all the time. And I know that my presence affects the plants, and the plants' presence affect me. And so how does that relationship affect the outcome of these signals, and how does that factor in conceptually into your work?
That's an excellent question, and I'm glad you brought this up. So absolutely, there's a lot of research to show that plants and humans are affected by the presence of one another. And there's a fascinating artist called Mia Masaoka, who some of you might have heard of. She's a wonderful Japanese performance artist and musician. And from the 90s, she was actually working with body area networks. So body area networks where she was approaching plants and actually had a bunch of sensors attached to them, and her presence was actually causing them to signal. And what she noticed is when she left the room, they went quiet, and when she came back to them, they started signaling again, right? So absolutely, we have this co-presence, and we don't know it, right? Because it's usually not visible. If we're walking in a forest or whatever, the plants are actually aware of our presence, right? They know when we're walking past and they're signaling. We don't know what they're saying or why or doing, but there's communication going on, you know, and these forest ecosystems have a communication going on all the time. It's just we're not able to visibly access it. So that's certainly part of what we're trying to do with this work by sonifying the actual signals coming out of plants in the presence of humans, is we're giving people this chance at understanding signals as visible. But also, you know, generally, you know, it's important, I think right now, for every artist to make some kind of a difference with our climate crisis, you know, and so my hope is that in some small way, this work with plants talking about bringing people closer to plants and how we do have this innate communication that we're not aware of. I mean, my hope is that that will maybe inspire some more people to take some action, to plant some trees, to, you know, become conservationists. So yeah, that's, I suppose, the background. Yeah.
Thank you. Is any last quick question? I don't see any hands. Then we will conclude the panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And just to remind, well, thank you for your attention for this session that I know is late and everyone wants to go probably for a drink or something. The presentations will be actually in YouTube. They told me before. Maybe some they will not be immediately, but they will be soon. And yeah, thank you very much for your time. Yeah. Sorry. Then late. Which time is the award ceremony? Maybe because I asked before and said no, I should not announce the award ceremony. But there is an award ceremony later.
8:30 here, and keep in mind there is the so-called Klangwolke sound cloud going on. So if you are planning to be right on time, maybe you need 20 minutes plus because it's very crowded on the street. So see you later, 8:30 here at the same place. And then there is a party going on, closing Ars Electronica. So is it party here? Here. Yeah. Come to the party. Thank you. Up. There will be a big thank you at the closing. Wie ist es gelaufen? Gut, super. Ich habe schon gehört. Oder? Ja. Was? Wie ist gelaufen, unser Diskussionsformat? Hallo? Hallo?
Hallo, Test, doch.